clause in terms of why the Second Amendment exists. What do you guys think is the main argument of Emma Gonzalez in document 2? What is the main argument of Emma Gonzalez in document 2? Erica, do you mind jumping in?
One second. I said that the government says gun violence is a tragedy, but does very little to change it, and that gun laws should evolve with the times.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so today, when we are going to go through this discourse, this guided seminar on gun control, what I specifically want to focus on is like, not so much what the debate is. The debate is very clearly like two-sided. People that think that access to guns should be easy, and people that think that we should have restrictions put in place to have guns. Those are the two sides, and that's pretty straightforward. What I want to look more into is like, why do people have these beliefs? Why is there such contention over why people should have guns, or whether or not there should be gun laws put in place? So what I'm going to have you guys do, since the pre-work was just reading the documents, I am going to give you 5 minutes of independent work time to go back through your pre-work, remind yourselves on what you read, and I want you to identify the perspective of these documents. So not just what does this person believe, but why do they believe that? So for example, document 2, Emma Gonzalez, she is in favor of strict gun control, but I want you to like take a deeper look into like why she might feel that way, especially towards like 3, 4, and 5, since we haven't reviewed those yet. So you're going to have 5 minutes of this independent work time to prep for guided seminar, and then we will come back together and have discourse. So 5 minutes. If you have any questions on understanding these messages, feel free to, or these documents, feel free to chat me. Again, make sure you're chatting me and not Messiah, and I can discuss with you via chat before we come back together. So 5 minutes of independent work time. You are targeting what is the POV and the perspective of the person writing these documents. 5 minutes, go ahead and get started. Two and a half more minutes. Again, we're targeting the point of view or the different perspectives on why we should or should not have gun control. I realize that documents 3 and 4 don't really talk so much about why people should or should not own guns. So just specifically look at like what those opinions are and what the impacts of like owning guns is. That grammar was really bad. And you have 1 more minute to finish up your pre-reading. And then we'll come back together for discourse. Okay, that is time. So first, so before we get started on like sorry, just give me a second. Okay. We are going to go into discourse, specifically looking at not just what gun control is, but why people have such strong feelings about having more or less of it. Why do you think people have such polarizing opinions of gun control? Can I hear from Ariana and then Nyasha? Oh, crap, boys. Yes, Ariana has mic issues, so she is going to chat me. If we can hear from Nyasha and then Erica.
I think there's such polarizing issues with the idea of gun control because it's again the debate between like individual rights and public safety, because people think that if you say you want stricter gun regulations and restrictions, and you're saying that you don't want an individual to have the right to own a gun and defend themselves. But when people say that they want more restrictions, they're not saying that they want the right taken away, but they want the safety of the people to increase, because during these past few years, the leniency with gun regulation has resulted in like a lot of mass shootings in schools and crimes against people of color. And so certain weapons shouldn't be allowed by the people, like an AR-15 that you use in like an army shouldn't be allowed by a regular person walking down the street.
Yeah, I agree with Nyasha that it's so conflicting because it's another thing about the relationship between freedoms and order. I also think the fact that guns can be represented and do so many different things, like some people just collect guns for them to stand there, some people do mass shootings, some people just have it there for potential protection. And I think because of the media and the way that different organizations invest into the NRA, can distort people's opinions and views about it, make it feel like it's like they're right when I don't think that's what the Constitution really necessarily meant. And also race, the fact that some people view gun rights as affiliating with white supremacy and all that. I feel like because you could use guns for so many different things is part of the reason why it's such a conflicting topic.
I want to go back to keep going with this idea that Erica just brought up of the relationship between gun ownership and race. What do you think about I believe it's documents 4 and 5 that specifically talk about the relationship of whiteness in gun ownership and blackness in gun ownership. What do you think of that? I'll take hands. This can be like a hands down or like raising hands thing. I trust y'all to have a good discourse. Ziara, go for it.
Can you say the question to me one more time and then I'll go?
Yes. What do you think about the relationship between race and gun ownership? So how gun ownership is framed differently for white people than for Black people?
I feel like it's framed differently for white people because white people before everything happened had more power with guns because they used it for their own privilege. But now, since we're in a crisis of more Black people dying than ever, I feel like Black people use it for protection. And when it comes to race, they feel like Black people shouldn't use it because they may use it they think white people might think in their mind that they use it for mass shootings or other things, but though we obviously know white people may do that more than Black people.
Yeah, like those are just statistics. Madison, go and jump in.
I don't recall what document it was. Sorry, I think it was the last one. But trying to remember from the reading, I said, like, obviously the Second Amendment says everyone has the right to bear arms. But, like, when white people bear arms, it's different from Black people. I remember saying it says that white people, they could, go around carrying a gun and no one would think anything. But when it comes to Black people, then it's the police. I think it said something, if there was a gun, run or something like that. I forgot what it was, but basically when someone sees a Black person, they obviously think negative, think that they're going to shoot, kill people. But when they see white people, they think of nothing, which is, unfair.
I think I know which passage Madison is discussing, and I talked about it earlier with Yamani. And I was going to read it for you guys, but I can't find it. But it's this passage that says that when a white person uses a gun negatively, it's an individual, like it's an individual's issue. But when it's a Black person that uses a gun, it represents the culture as a whole. Okay, I see hands. Let's go. Kezia, then Erica, then Isis. Kezia, are you able to unmute?
Oh, I didn't hear my name. Sorry.
No worries.
I was gonna say that document 4, it says that white Americans attempt to defend their status in the racial hierarchy by opposing issues like gun control, and it also says the majority of America's gun death victims are white men, and it keeps going on. So it kind of proves what Ziara and Matt said about having guns not being a big issue, but if Blacks have.
Awesome. Let's go Erica and then Isis.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly reference how this is still going on today, with Kyle Rittenhouse, how he went to the BLM protest, comfortably went from a different state to the protest with a gun, just shot up a bunch of people in the name of self-defense and righteousness and patriotism or whatever. And that just shows how, and with the white people at the Capitol, people do not register white people with a gun as a problem or a threat as much as they do with Black people. And it's just sad.
I was going to say that I agree with both of them. And a line, I just want to give a piece of evidence in document 4, where it says, at the same time, there were all stories about African-American gun owners who would go to Walmart, get tackled and shot, basically showing how a white person carrying a gun is not seen as a threat or anything like that. But as soon as they see a Black person carrying a gun, they automatically go towards shooting and trying to attack them instead of thinking of it as protection because, race.
I think that all of what you guys are saying is really, really interesting. And I want to take a zoom in look at document 5 because document 5 is, I don't want to say the least compatible, but it's the most interesting of this set because it has the most unique perspective. Document 5 is the one that I just exited out of it. It's the opinion article written for, it's the opinion article for the Detroit Free Press about the founder of Detroit's Black Bottom Gun Club, where he specifically sees gun control as a threat to African-American safety and the curious relationship between Black people and gun control. How does his opinion fit into this discourse? How do we reconcile his understanding of gun laws with like our perception of gun laws, especially with recent events like the Capitol? So I'll say that again because that was really long. How does document 5 fit into our discourse? I'll give you 30 seconds to review document 5 if you're unsure, and then I'll take hands. So how does document 5 fit in, and what do you think of document 5? And as soon as you're ready, you can raise your hand in Zoom. Okay, we'll start with Isis, and then feel free to raise your hand as you start to formulate ideas. So we'll do actually Isis, then Erica, then Aisha.
First, to start off with a piece of evidence, it says on page 11, he points out that many of mass shootings have been committed by by white men with connections to white nationalism, and believe that if he gives up his weapon, he may be making himself vulnerable to racists who will be unlikely to surrender their firearms. Basically saying how if there were to be stricter laws on guns, it would be harder for Black people to be able to own one because of like, I don't know, but like backgrounds and stuff like that. And it would be harder for them to protect themselves against these white people who are allowed to own these guns and just walk around with them.
I feel like this should have really, or probably really scared white people, like a whole bunch of Black people arming up in defense of white people. Like that sounds scary to white people, just like how the the Proud Boys sound scary to me, like a whole bunch of white people ganging up, arming themselves in defense of a race. I don't think that's right. Like, I don't think that they should be promoting guns in the name of racism or in the name of violence or in the name of hate. Like, I feel like you should have the right to own a gun, and gun control should be strict. And I don't think that because of fear and because of the potential hate in the world, you should arm yourself and be ready and always on guard. I don't think that's right for either side.
I said that the document was saying that gun control is arising whenever a Black person tries to exercise their Second Amendment right, because it says Kenyatta believes gun control measures are often a response to Black Americans' attempts to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And then he gave an example of the Black Panther group having like guns to like defend themselves. And then I think it was California legislators then immediately said they passed the Mulford Act, which prohibited the open carry of firearms in America's most populous state. And I think this relates to today because typically majority of smart, educated people says that gun regulation should happen because of the mass shootings that are rising. But then you see like the ignorant people with the Breonna Taylor situation when her boyfriend had a gun in his own home to defend himself because the police entered without any warning, and people believe that he should have been arrested, but it's his right to own a gun. But now they think that stricter regulation should be put in place because he pulled out a weapon on the cops who did not identify themselves. So yeah.
We could obviously talk about this forever, but I do want to transition, especially over the last few weeks, we've been talking about like the relationship between Blackness and whiteness and all of these different forms of protest and how white people are white people's privilege is on full display when we see these different approaches to these different moments. I just want to slightly shift our discussion towards age. And we've noticed that, like, so about 10 years ago, there was not that really much of a difference between young people and older people's opinions of guns. So like the percentage of people in an age group of like 18 to 29 who wanted gun control was only a little bit higher than like ages like 40 to 60. But now we're starting to see more and more young people favor gun control. And while you guys think about that, I'm just gonna give like a little bit of a side example. I have a personal relationship in some way or another to 3 mass shootings. I went to Virginia Tech, which you guys might not remember, but that was one of the most like deadly school shootings on a college campus. So I went there not when the shooting happened, but like it's still a part of that school's history. My dad had coworkers that were at the Las Vegas shooting, that big concert one. And I was only a mile away from the San Bernardino shooting when it happened. And just all I can say is like the relationship of when it is a white guy that might have a history of mental illness, the way that that is put on display and why that is important for people to know versus in the San Bernardino shooting where it was somebody that had been radicalized by ISIS. When that had happened, I'm sorry, like that was somebody that like that was what was talked about. In the Las Vegas shooting, it was about like the fallen victims and like we need to focus on that or the person's like potential mental disorder. But in the San Bernardino shooting, it was all about like, look at these domestic terrorists and how we should be worried. And so like, I've just seen that like firsthand. So going back to document 2 and like with that little aside, why do you think, like, especially through the words of Emma Gonzalez, why do you think people your age and my age are creating these bigger opinions on gun control? Like, that's what I would say is like gun control is a conversation now, whereas 30 years ago, it wasn't really, except in politics. Whereas now we're actively debating gun control consistently. Why do you think age matters? I'll take hands as you would like. Great, I'll start with ISIS and then I'll see who else raising their hand.
Honestly, I feel like it's more popular with younger people because I feel like older people are more stuck in the past and they kind of are like used to the old ways and stuff like that. So they don't really pay attention to what's going on now with like this generation. And also because like they say, well, she had said in the document how they say that because they're too young, they don't know what they're talking about. So they feel like they don't have to listen to this generation when it comes to guns and laws and stuff like that.
Kezia and then Erica.
I agree with ISIS, and I think because now there's like a new system, so the younger students might think we have to change laws, and I think there's more teenagers that don't still understand some laws, so they kind of go upon what they want to do and not really what the law says.
I agree with everything that's been said. I feel like this generation is a lot more woke than the other ones, and that they're more invested in traditions than we are. We're more liberal and more willing to break free. I think part of that reason is because of the media. Like you said, everything is being exposed, and I feel like people are internalizing that a lot more. And there's a lot more tragedies that like people feel like there's documentaries and everything out now that may not have had much of an influence back then. So I think that's part of what makes us more liberal.
And Nyesha, go for it.
I think I'm using document 3 if I'm not mistaken. It's affecting, we are targeting like age like the younger people because it's affecting young people more. It says in doc 3, annually nearly 2,900 children and teens ages 0 to 19 are shot and killed, and 12,706 are shot and injured. That's an average of 43 American young people every day. So we need to have the the younger generation needs to have this conversation because we're the ones that it's affecting. It's not really affecting the older people right now because, you know, it's easier for young people to get guns and all that.
Well, and something else is like the older generation didn't have school shootings. That was not something that they looked for on their front page. That was not something that they were normalized to understand could happen. And speaking to like what happened at the Capitol earlier this month, Nancy Pelosi came out and said that it was her young interns that were like 20 to 24 years old. They were the ones that knew how to barricade the door and get themselves in a room safe. And there's a reason why it was her young interns that knew how to do that, but not the elder politicians. And so it's not just like who's being affected, but like younger generations are being affected in multiple different ways, where not only are they the victims, but they are also being socialized to expect these types of things. And I think it's not just that like you guys are waking up to news where you could see mass shootings all the time, but also we're being socialized to think that it's normal. And on that note, on that positive note, I'm going to transition to you guys to your exit ticket, but today's exit ticket is a different type of FRQ. So I just want to share my screen and make sure I make something clear before you guys submit, because this will be graded on accuracy. So the second question is worth 2 points. So for part 2, it says describe a similarity or a difference on gun control between individuals who are college graduated and those with no college degree. So you would interpret this data right here that says college grad versus non-college grad. That's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, college grads are more strict with gun control than no college grads. There you go. I just gave you guys a point. But what I'm looking for is this draw a conclusion for that similarity or difference. So it is up to you guys to interpret that data and consider why college graduates would be more favorable towards gun control than non-college grads. The rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. The third part is explain how a major political event might influence the gun control views of the subgroups identified above. It'll make sense when you see the graph. For that, think about things like the Capitol mass shootings, the election, etc. And all you have to do is explain how that political event would influence the views of gun control by these different groups. Okay, I just want to make sure I walked through those questions with you guys since it is graded on accuracy, but go ahead and head on over to the exit ticket. Once I see that the exit ticket is turned in addition to your class packet, you're free to go. Also make sure if you unsubmitted your homework that you resubmit it so you can get it graded. Go ahead and head to the exit ticket. Once I see it is submitted with the class packet, you are good to go. Thank you guys for an awesome discourse per usual.